Welcome back. I'm Becca.
And I'm Bree, and this is Spooky Happy Hour. What a time that it just took to get ready for today. My whole weekend from the time I got off work yesterday until right now has just been like one nonstop box to check off the list the entire time. I'm like, work, check. Most of notes done, check. Work stuff that I didn't do that I should have done, check. Concert, check. We did 2 festivals today. We went out to dinner, got the lawn cut.
God.
Like, so
2
much
festivals?
stuff. Yeah, it was like my Facebook has like an event calendar, right? And so it'll be like, oh, events in your area that you said like at one point in time you were interested in. And it's like, all of them are happening this weekend. So it was like the Miranda Lambert concert last night. And then there was this thing called Summerfest, and it was at one of my favorite breweries. And I didn't know that it was there. I thought that it was just like very close to there, and they were just like sponsoring it or something because their parking lot is really, really small. There's like maybe 20 cars that could fit like in there, and that's literally like pushing it. And when we rolled up on it, I was very underwhelmed because I thought it was going to be like a bigger thing. Yeah, like Summerfest, you would think like it would be huge, it'd be vendors and like food trucks and whatever. It's like, no, it's at the brewery. And they had like, I don't know, 8 vendors, and then this like stage where other people weren't even playing yet, and they had this huge bounce house that my child decided he wanted to spend most of his time there, and he was like, oh mom, that was so cool. And I was like, well, I'm really glad that you had a lot of fun. And then we bought 2 muffins off of this like little girl that was selling. She was probably like, I say little girl, but she was probably like in her like early teens or something. Yeah, it's like a teenager. And she was with her mom, and her mom was selling something else. And she was like, oh yeah, this is my daughter. And like, this is her first like go around of like selling her own stuff. Like she made all of these cookies and like muffins and whatever. And so he picked out some. And but yeah, we were there for like 45 minutes. And they were like, all right, like we're gonna go. And then on the way back home, we remembered that like our town is doing this thing this weekend called Community Days. So like the fire station opens up, and they do like a basket raffle and like craft vendors, and they all set up like inside the hall, and they're there to give like safety lessons, or the kids can go on the truck. And then they have like bounce houses and other food trucks, and the fire hall sells food. And it's like at night is when it all like for all the like adults, you know, they'll come down, and they usually do a band for like several hours. And then there's a bar right across the street. It was like the only bar that I would ever frequent because they had karaoke's every Saturday.
Of course.
So yes, I was there every Saturday night to play my own little set list. And we would go over across the street and then like listen to the band, have a drink, and then like come back, sing a couple songs, and like go back across the road and like listen to the live music and come back and sing one of our own. And it was so yeah, that's this weekend. So we went down there and had something to eat. We came back here, did stuff around the house. Then I was like, oh shit, I gotta get in the shower, I gotta get ready. Like we have an hour.
Yeah, like I had not really heard from you all day, and I'm like, oh god, she's feeling rough. Like you were texting me last night. Okay, so funny. We can have like 3 conversations in like 3 different apps. So it's just like you're texting me, you're Snapchatting me because I've started that now because of the kids, and then you're Instagramming me
the whole time. It's like I could have like
and
a serious conversation in this one. We'll be like talking about something else in another one, and laughing about something else in this one.
Yeah. And I'm still like, I used to have Snapchat years ago, and then I got rid of it because like the salon I worked at, it's all of us girls, and if like it'd be my day off, I would get the same snap from like different angles from 5 people, and I was just like, I don't care anymore. Like I just
right, my phone can't keep blowing up like this.
Yeah, no, and like now a lot has changed on Snapchat, so I don't really get the point of it because I'm such an Instagram person. Like you will find me always on Instagram. Snapchat, meh. And like the stories I get, I'm like, these just feel like ads to me, and they were like kind of like stupid stories. So I'm just like I don't know, I don't get it. And then my one friend likes to see that she can find me on the map, which I might take off.
Oh, yeah, I, like, disabled location, like, I don't even know how
Yeah.
long ago. I was like, "That's not a thing that I would want people
Yeah.
to see."
But that sounded like a fun weekend, though. Like, concerts are so fun, and I love going to them,
They're
and
my favorite, I just don't go as much as I want to.
yeah, and, like, I am going to one in August, and this will be, like, the 3rd time I've gone by myself. And the first time I did that, going by myself, I was just, like, super nervous. It's, like, a smaller venue, but I was just, like, once I was in the building, I'm like, "Dang, like, I can get a beer when I want, I can go pee when I want, I can, like, move closer to where I wanna go," and,
Yeah, you don't
like,
have,
if I
like, 4 girls holding
Yeah!
hands, like, rippling through the crowd all at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh my god, yeah, and, like, bigger concerts are fun, like, I went to a festival in Toronto called Veld, and that was, like, huge, like, Dead Mouse was playing and all, like, the EDM stuff, so, like, people got dressed up, and it was, like, pretty wild, and it was, like, out in a field, and people were doing something,
All kinds of
something.
things.
Everybody was doing something. We were drinking, we were doing this, we were doing that, and it was so fun. But I went with 2 friends of mine, and I tend to go like Mother Goose. I'm just like, okay, we're in Toronto for one. There's a lot of like crazy people around, and then I'm just like, okay, you're over there, good. You're over there, good. If someone's missing, like, warning. And then like I remember we randomly ran into like everyone from our town in like just in the middle of a circle. And I'm like, so everybody came apparently, and we were all staying at the same hotel.
Like
It's
a
like
reunion of some sorts.
pretty much. But yeah,
Ugh,
concerts are
I love
so
them.
fun.
The last time that I went to see Miranda Lambert, and the last time I saw her was at Red Rocks in Colorado. And it was
Mm,
like probably like 6 years ago. And it's so hard to see somebody at that venue and then see them play somewhere else. And
hmm
it's like not the same experience. Still fantastic shows. Like she's phenomenal all the time, always has been.
hmm
But like something just about like going there is well, I mean, it's like really iconic, but like, the acoustics because it's all rock.
Yeah.
So it just sounds so much better. And she played at this like I don't know, minor league baseball like stadium, which
Hmm.
really is not like a large venue whatsoever at all.
hmm
But like I figured the show would be like sold out and it wasn't.
Hmm.
And I was like, dude, she's like has won Grammys and like a lot of
Yeah.
ACMs. Like, why would not like more people want to? And we're like a country area. So I'm
hmm
like, why wouldn't more people want to come out? So we were up in these in like the stands or in the seats. And my friend that went with me, she's wasted. And she's like, I'm gonna go onto the field. I'm like, but we like don't have tickets for like on the field. So like how are you gonna do that? Like you're gonna get past the people that like stand at like the little entryway,
Yeah.
It's just because like on those types of things, I'm so like go by the book and like go by the
hmm
rules because don't want to get kicked out or like get in trouble
Yeah.
or something. And I'm really there to like see the show. So once it starts, I'm like, don't want to get up.
hmm
Um, and she was like, no, like I have a plan, like follow me. And so I looked at our other friend and I was like, are we following her? And she was like, why not? So we do, and we get past the lady didn't even say anything to us.
hmm
I'm like, you haven't seen us for half of the concert, but and there's like 6 different areas to get in. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you haven't seen us for half the concert, but you just let us in there, which was fine because I was literally like right up to the stage after that.
It's
And I was like, this is incredible.
It's so worth it, like, even though, like, when you think about it, like, trying to get close to the stage is like, oh, there's so many people around, but really, like, everyone is just so chill, like, I end up talking to people around me all the time, like, especially when you're waiting for the next band to come on, like, I've never especially, like, rock music, people are so chill, even though we wanna headbang and rage, like, everyone is so freaking chill, and it's great, and we're just like, "How are you? How are you?" kinda thing, but I prefer concerts that I stand at. I have more fun.
Mhm.
I ended up seeing Godsmack play. When was that? Like last fall, and it was like their 25-year. It was supposed to be a farewell tour, but I don't know if it was. And I was mainly there to see one of the openers, I Prevail, because I absolutely love them and they're so good. But it was at the Saddle Dome, and that's where like Calgary Flames, our hockey team, plays. So it's a huge, huge area. but there's seats, and the ice, obviously there's no ice, they clear the ice, and they put chairs down there, and I was like, we're sitting for this, what is this? And you have to pay extra if you want to get into the mosh area.
Mm.
But I think some people got let in, like, whatever. But like I'd see people sitting and I'm just like, dude, get up. Like, and I'm like, I'm one of those people that, like, when I'm filming I think there might be a video that I took off my Instagram. I'm like singing in the background and I'm like singing over the band in one of my videos. And I was like, oh my God, Becca, shut up. You sound awful. Never again.
I do that all the time. Like, I was
So bad.
recording last night, and there was the guy that was next to me. He was there with his boyfriend, and he's like
Mhm.
dancing with me the entire time. Like, had
Oh
no
my God,
idea who he
amazing.
was. Like, bless that man. But he looked at me and he was like, "Hey," he was like, "You actually like sing really good, but like just a little." Because he
Tone
also
it
was
down. We
like,
wanna hear
"Yeah,
Miranda.
tone it down." I'm like, because it's so funny because I sing all of her stuff when I go out to karaoke.
Oh my
It's like I've
gosh.
always joked like I could probably start a Miranda Lambert cover band and
Mhm.
I'd have enough material for like night after night after night.
Country
So
concerts are fun though. Like,
hell
I
yeah.
went to the amphitheater in Toronto to see Luke Bryan, but there was like a few openers. I cannot remember. This was like a long time ago. And they were calling them wine tars, and they were glasses about this big, like as big as a wine bottle, people who are listening that you can't see. And literally, they would pour a bottle of wine in this. It looked like a guitar, and they would just give it to you
Oh,
for
wine
like
tar. I
a
get it now.
wine tar. And then people are walking around with literally bottles of wine, and
Oh
I think it came with
no.
a straw too,
Oh, that's
actually.
dangerous. You're
And then
done.
you're done, and you, like, I think it was $20, but you're paying for a bottle of wine and you get to keep the wine tar. And
20 bucks. I would be
20
like,
bucks.
here you go, bud. 20. I'm done for the night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, like, classic us, we're, like, pre-drinking before we go there because, like, you pre-drink, get a cab, go. And then I was like, "What is this?" And then I drank a full one, and then I was like, "Okay, like, I'm still feeling the music and I wanna drink," and I could not finish the second one. I literally handed it to a girl in front of me, and she was like, "Are you sure?" And I get super generous when I'm drunk, by the way. So if any of you are going to New Jersey, I'll be like, "Do you wanna do shots? All shots on me, guys."
We're
Like,
gonna have to call your card company and be like,
oh
"Becca's
my
out
god.
of the country, and she says she's out of the country, but she's really not. Shut that shit down after, like, 9 PM."
Then you know what? It's all on Dakota's card, everyone.
Just put it on his tab,
Just kidding,
guys.
just kidding. Just kidding. I would never do that. But, actually, I went out Wednesday night, here we go again, with those youngins. This was my weekly
They
kinda
keep
update.
you young.
They keep me young. I went out, for wings. It was kinda like a kerfuffle. We didn't know what we're gonna do, and I'm like, once I'm home and, like, in my pajamas, I'm like, "I don't know if I wanna go out."
Oh, there's
But,
no way you're getting me out. If I'm in my PJs and
yeah,
my bra is off, sorry. I don't even care what the fuck
yeah.
is going on, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and they were, like, gonna go to a campground, but I wasn't really digging camping, and it's not really the greatest. It's, like, in town. It's, like, not you're not out of town, you're in town, like, it's not really a nice campground, but, I was like, "You know what? Screw it, we'll go out." Like, Long Island's are only, like, $5, so ended up going out, having a few drinks, and, this guy ends up coming up to me and another friend I was with, and he looked kinda young, and he was just like, "Hey, how are you girls doing tonight? Like, do you wanna party?" And we're like, "No, not really." Like, it's a
It's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, and he looked like early 20s and,
Mm.
like, a little young, and he goes, "Oh, well, it's my bachelor party tonight," and we're, like, looking to, like, party, and I look over, and it's literally him and 2 guys. And I was just like, "Oh my god, bless your little hearts." And we're like, "No, it's okay." And he probably came over to us, like, I don't know if he was so drunk that he forgot to come up to us, but he kept coming up. And he's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And then in the back of my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to buy myself a drink and I'm going to buy them tequila shots. And my friend's like, you're not doing that. And I'm like, why the heck not? Like, they want to party. I can't party with them. So here's my gift to you.
Right. It's like a bachelor. Still his bachelor
Right.
party, you know? Like, I'll see people come up on my Venmo of like, send somebody like, oh, this because it's their bachelorette party or something. And I might not even like know the person. I might be like, here's $10. I'll send you money.
Yeah. And like the guy at the bar, I was like, can you like just give those guys? I was like, don't say it was for me. Don't say it was for me. And like,
Right.
walked by them, and then like they figured it out. And they're like, you bought us tequila shots. And I was like, well, I feel bad that I can't party with you on a Wednesday. So
you're like, I'm going to participate the only way I know how.
Exactly, tequila. And I was just like, even the bartender, he was like, do you want a tequila shot? And I was like, dude, fuck no. I can't do tequila. Like, I used to drink it out of the bottle, but no more. No more.
Me and my friend Taylor, my best friend in the whole world, it's my son's auntie. And in our younger days, we would go, and if one of us ever went off by ourselves, it was rarely ever to go to the bathroom. It was to take secret shots, which were always tequila, because we were also generous. However, not with tequila, because that's why they were secrets. Like, you couldn't let anybody know, oh, I'm going to the bar to get a tequila shot. Cause I was like, oh, well, I want to go. Or like, then you bring 6 of them, and it's not like, I'm going to separate these into 6 different tabs for you to put them on. It's like, no, one person takes care of that. And the one person was like, usually me or usually her. So we came up with a whole, like, we're going to go take a secret shot.
Oh, yeah.
So, and eventually it didn't become quite so secret, because we would go off together like multiple times. And then people around us would be like, oh, where are they? Probably secret shots.
Oh, darn. Yeah, like, I can't do tequila shots, but my, like, random go-to shot is always, like, liquid cocaine for some reason. I
What's
don't know
that?
why. It's Jaeger and Goldschlager.
Never mind.
Together.
I don't even want to know. I'm not even asking anymore. I'm not asking anymore. There's no point. No, it's disgusting. You're gross.
Depending on who makes it, though, because the last time I took a shot with these youngins was a Friday, and I was like, it's Friday, I don't work tomorrow. And they did. And like, my young friend was laughing at me because she's like, your phone is rolling down the hill outside. You're calling people. You're doing this. And I was like, dude, I haven't done this in so long. And I'm glad I didn't do that at Pennhurst, because.
Oh, yeah, no. I like last night, I don't know. I think it was just because like I was out, I hadn't been in a concert since like October of last year. I was seeing like my favorite, well, one of top 3 like female artists that I really love. And so I just went like ham. And by ham, I mean that I had like one of my Dragonberry rum and lemonades, and then like 2 Arnold Palmer like hard iced teas that are like the pounders though. And
yeah.
like the tall ones. And I couldn't drive home when I got to like my friend's house, because we carpooled. I got there and I was like, bro, I'm crashing in your guest bedroom, by the way. And then I woke up at like 5:30 this morning and drove home, and I could not go back to sleep all freaking day today.
No.
I just like laid there for hours, and then we like got up and, you know, did our whole day. But speaking of different booze that I like don't normally drink, I have Victory's Sour Monkey. I love sour beer. Like, I don't like beer like at all ever, but if it's a sour, or if it's like a fruity beer, all about it, because like the tartness of the sour is just like, oh, it's my favorite. And this one's actually 9.5% alcohol.
Oh.
In one beer.
So
I Victory Brewing, I believe, is in Colorado, actually, because I think I've been there. No. Victory Brewing Company, Dowlington, Pennsylvania. There's another like Victory Brewing, or I think they spell it differently, in Colorado. But this one, I was in Gettysburg last May for Memorial Day, and they had that on the menu, and I was like, just give me whatever your sour is. And he's like, oh, it's a 9.5%. And I was like, give me whatever your sour is. I don't care. And it was
what does that matter, dude?
It was so good. I had 3 of them at dinner, and like didn't have anything to drink the rest of the night when we went out, because I was like already done. So that's what I'm switching up my booze for today. So before we get into the episode, cheers.
Cheers. I just have White Claws. I'm a classy girl.
But I feel like yours changes like quite often too, and I want to maybe bring some more like local brews, and because you
Yeah.
can get like at the six-pack store, you can like pick and choose. You can make your own six-pack out of all these different
Ooh,
types of beers. So I might do that and
nice.
like start featuring one of those if I ever want to really break away from my rum and pink lemonade. Which you know how
Yeah,
hard it is for me to like change it up
it's
and change page.
hard.
This is because Breeze broke and this was in the fridge.
Yeah, like, this was, like, I don't have a lot of money, but I wanna, like, have some tonight and tomorrow because we film tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
The
I know I'm gonna have to go out and get something, or I'll take one of like the 12 bottles of wine that are downstairs and try one of
that
those.
might
We're
get
just gonna get real crazy this
dangerous
weekend.
on here.
Yeah, we're just gonna get real crazy this
Plus,
weekend,
like,
guys.
it's been warm out, and I'm like, "Oh, like, I could sit outside and have a few," but we'll see because I don't have much of a yard.
Oh,
But,
that's I mean, that's
yeah.
my thing. I just like to sit outside in the sun and like makes me want to day drink.
It's that time of year, people. Patio season has started.
Oh, I know it's my favorite.
Love
And
it.
it's this time of the episode when we're going to tell you all about the history of our haunted
Mhm.
location. Crew goes back to Fairfield County Infirmary, y'all. And in 1828 in Lancaster, Ohio, stood a wooden framed almshouse, a home for the poor, homeless, and outcast. For a decade or so, conditions were acceptable and operated within its purpose. However, the population grew inside the poorhouse and it eventually admitted elderly, disabled, widows, orphans, criminals, and travelers. As you can imagine, the allegations of abuse and neglect started thereafter. By 1840, overcrowding, forced expansion, and more walks of life were admitted, like those with severe physical and developmental disabilities, as well as wives whose husbands didn't want to deal with them anymore. Nearby neighbors of the poorhouse reported witnessing the superintendent dragging people out of the house, kicking and screaming while he beat them senseless in the front yard.
Oh my goodness. Once admitted to the FCI, most patients never left. Some were born, raised, and died there. Most deaths were caused by disease, chronic illness, or old age. Thousands of unclaimed bodies have been buried on the property, and in its early days, it was impossible to bury bodies in the winter as the ground was too hard. What was their solution? They stored them in a makeshift morgue alongside the vegetables and meats, people. They would even hand wash the dead bodies in the same sinks. They would prepare the food.
That freaks me out
Mhm.
entirely. Like,
Mhm. I
even just thinking about like an image of like multiple dead bodies like stacked upon each other, and then it's like your lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes and all of your other like vegetables and some meats. Like, that's disgusting.
like I feel like they'd be like, "Oh, okay, like this wouldn't be any different from like a pig or a cow." Like, sorry, people. Like, I'm trying to be realistic here. But at the same time, like, if it has passed, it's not like, no, it's not like these have been prepared like a regular kitchen and they've been stored properly. They are just there. And then at the same time, like, you have to look at them when you go get your food.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
it's like
just
the
like, oh, hey.
1800s, so I understand, like, they don't have a lot of advancements in, like,
Yeah.
dealing with those things, but, like, I don't know, like, "Oh, maybe let's not put the dead people next to the food that we're gonna prepare for lunch later today."
Yeah, like, you would become, I feel like, desensitized to just seeing it because it's just like, this is what we do.
110%, and they
Blech.
probably saw so much more because
Mhm.
by 1865, Fairfield County Infirmary was established in its new brick structure. They added Civil War widows and permanently disabled veterans to their list of residents. To sustain their needs, a laundry facility, tenant houses, farm, and poor man's cemetery were built behind the main building. By 1903, FCI housed 83 residents. Those residents would be subjected to torment and abuse. In 1929, a 73-year-old resident, Jane Householder, was burned alive in the attic when she opened a gas stove and her clothing caught on fire. Charred rafters from this incident can still be seen today. On the third floor is a small room that functioned as a jail cell. Misbehaving patients were locked away until staff were sure they learned their lesson. Up to 30 people could be confined to this room at any given time. What did they consider misbehaving, though? children having a bad day, women whose mood were severely depressed, and the criminally insane recounting their glory days could be locked inside together. FCI would soon become known as the Black Mark of the town.
Once I heard, I don't know why this like came to my mind when it was stated that it was called the Black Mark. I just had this image, and I think it's from Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know if Jack Sparrow has it for any of you. I feel like most of you have seen this movie. But like it just reminds me of like the black spot. And it's just like back in the day, and it's a true thing among pirates. It's like the mark of death apparently. And I was just like, I don't know why this like just like that image just came to my mind. It was so random.
Well, and it makes sense because, like you had just said, like some people were, as soon as you were admitted, like a lot of them never left. They died there. Some were born, raised, and died there. So it makes sense
Yeah.
that like that correlates so well with
Mhm.
what happened here.
Yeah, like almost like a black hole.
Yeah.
Crazy. But as time went on, Fairfield County Infirmary continued expansion and modernized by adding gas heating, lighting, and indoor plumbing throughout the early decades of the new century until it reached 35,000 square feet and over 4 stories. After the Great Depression, there was a perspective shift. Preventing future economic and safety insecurity became a priority, and soon government programs, institutions, and laws were established to protect the newfound value. The Social Security Act of 1935 granted continuing income for workers after age 65 when they were eligible to enter retirement. By taxing pay and growth funds, benefits could be paid out and reduce the burden on current programming like almshouses, infirmaries, and poorhouses.
By 1958, FCI's main population included just the sick, elderly, and disabled, and they upgraded to electrical lighting. Throughout the next 30 years, underfunding coupled with low admissions led to a steady decline as buildings and acres of this property were eventually sold off. However, in 1985, when Fairfield County Infirmary closed for good, it was renovated quickly and reopened as the Clarence E. Miller Building, which held offices for county officials. For the next 27 years, it would operate as the county health department until decay took its toll, and it finally closed for good in 2013. Who other than to save the day by buying and preserving this property, though? In 2020, Adam Kimmel, also owner of Madison Seminary, acquired FCI and has since opened the 170-year-old building for overnight ghost hunting investigations while working diligently alongside others to preserve the building, the property, and its history.
Mm-hmm.
He has acquired so many haunted buildings. Like one of the guests that we have coming on for next season
Yes,
has,
everyone. So season
yes.
2, we have other plans. This is a little sneaky snippet of a drop of what is to
Stay
come.
tuned, guys. Stay
Stay
tuned.
tuned.
Things are going to be different. We're going to shake up some stuff, and I think that
Mhm.
you all are going to really like it. You're going to hear from people other than us as well, and one of our guests is a very experienced person when it comes to
Mhm.
anything in this realm,
Yep.
and they were telling me that Madison and Fairfield County and Indiana State Sanatorium, all of which I believe Adam Kimmel owns, um have been
Genius.
like on her top 5 of her
Yeah.
list that she's gone to. I don't know what it is about Adam coming to save the day for all of these different buildings, but he has seen probably so many different accounts through owning several of these properties, and I'm just like wondering what ghostly encounters that he has, because as you can
Yeah.
imagine, several spirits are said to still live at the infirmary.
Mhm.
Willie, Susie, and Jane are among the most infamous. The spirit of Willie is said to be seen as a full-bodied apparition, wandering aimlessly through the halls, stopping occasionally to peer out the window, lost in thought. Susie's spirit has been seen standing in doorways or in several places around the morgue. She can be identified by her blonde hair, carrying a teddy bear, and having a sad or lonely demeanor. Some say she wanders the halls looking for a playmate. An EVP even captured saying, "I'm lonely," and they think that it was her. However, once she's seen, she vanishes before your eyes. Last but certainly not least, Jane's tragic death at the infirmary has kept her bound here, appearing to visitors in period clothing.
And in room 322, a tale of a woman who was silenced by a hand over her mouth from behind is said to have occurred here. She thought her boyfriend or another visitor was playing a trick on her until she stepped back to lean into him and felt a rush of energy go through her, and the hand came off of her face. There are also doors slamming in your face, aggressive EVPs, poltergeist activity, and scratching are all said to be reported here.
And the
Ugh.
spirits there, they really don't seem to want visitors. They will physically
Mm-mm.
poke you to leave, or even worse, because some of the accounts are very physical. And the
Mhm.
scariest of all of the spirits here is said to be a 7-foot tall black figure, mainly in the attic. And it's said to be darker than dark, which can just appear and then melt away. The crew meets with Tara and Haley Clark, a mother daughter duo who have had plenty of experiences at the infirmary. And they believe that the superintendent is this malevolent, dark spirit that prohibits the other spirits from making themselves known, essentially controlling them in the afterlife as well as he did when they were alive.
Ugh. Melting. Like, it just makes me picture this, like, black thing and just going poof into the
Yeah.
floorboards. Ugh.
I mean, just
So
like
creepy.
something that can just like appear and then disappear as quickly as it came is
Mhm.
it's too ominous to me.
Mhm. Yeah. Very strange. And it's always something tall.
Mhm.
It's never a 4-foot little hobbit shadow creature. Like, why not? It's always something big.
Yeah, because
Why?
it's, like, so intimidating, like, I feel like you have to be,
Yeah.
like, the darker than dark, like,
Mhm.
that's scary to be
That's
darker than the
crazy.
actual dark. So, I think that, like, that combined with, like, the height, it's just all of those intimidation factors are there, and
Mhm.
not that, like, seeing a shadow figure at all wouldn't be intimidating in the first place, but
No.
I think, like, all of the extra components on there and, like, how people describe it, like, I always wonder too, like, in the last, I don't know, it closed in like 2013, so 11 years. It's
Mhm.
like, has it always been 7 foot? Did it start off at 5 foot? And like the story just like grow after that to be like 7 foot, like in 10 years, I think I say it's like a 10-foot tall dark spirit or
Maybe
something.
it just
Like,
feeds off the fear and just that makes it start growing into this beast of a
yeah, I
thing.
was
You never know.
Amy Bruni's book. I always find something to like bring back to her book. I learned so much. Um, she had mentioned this concept of like an egregore or like an aggregore, like a spirit that we make up by telling so
Right.
many stories, and like the
Yes.
energy that that produces from that story
Mhm.
being told over and over again, it actually like manifests into a whole spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So I'm wondering if
actually
that's like one of them too.
maybe because when you first mentioned that book, I actually started to listen to it, on the plane to Penhurst. Um,
Preparing for our spooky weekend.
preparing and, like, if I, like, bumped into her kinda thing, but, yeah, it's almost like the story of Slender Man. He didn't exist. This story happened and now everyone believes that he's real. There's a movie based off of it. There's documentaries on it and there's even I don't sometimes I get weirded out saying this, but there's this huge thing around the Hat Man. I don't know if you've heard stories about the Hat Man. Other YouTubers have ran into the Hat Man as well. My friend has seen him. Yeah, and
We're gonna have to feature it on another episode where we talk
yeah,
about all of these, like, all these stories that could have been, like, really born from us.
right? Like, you don't know, and there I think Jack Osborne mentions it on one of his podcasts that there was a group who were in Toronto, Canada that were like, "Can you" I forget what it's called, but we'll deep dive into it, and it was almost like, "Do we create ghosts?" And they do a whole experiment on it too. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, the guest that we have on too, like, this same guest has a really unique perspective about ghosts in general and, like, the spirit
Mhm.
and paranormal world. So, guys, like, we're just, like, burning, like, at the
Yes.
ends of both candles, just, like, getting us ready for season 2 because it's gonna be banging. I'm telling you, like, I'm so
Yeah.
freaking pumped. So, but we do have, you know, the rest of our episodes to get into, but this is
Exactly.
the second to last. And we talk
Mhm.
about Penhurst in next week's episode, and that
Mhm.
will conclude season 1. So we're really
Yeah.
excited to not only conclude this season on the same note that we started it, but also give you guys brand new content in just a couple
Mhm.
weeks. So
Yeah.
the crew, it's so funny. This whole road trip, like they've been like stranded, they've been poured on, they've had like the RV malfunction. So, you know, they are yet again stuck in the RV before their
Oh,
overnight.
man.
There's an accident on the highway, so it's pouring rain. And Dakota remembers past overnights and starts like thinking, you know, every time we get rained on, we have a bad night.
Mhm.
And after 3.5 hours in stuck in the
Oh my
RV,
god.
they're moving on the way to the location.
They're moving and, like, from the aerial shot of the highway, it was just backed up. Just back the frick up. I
For
would like,
miles.
whoever was driving that RV, I would have so much road rage. I would be like, "What the F?" And Tanner even states, like, "I don't know if there's an accident up ahead."
Mhm.
Like, it was just I would be so frustrated.
Well, I mean, at that point
Um,
in time, they're, like, on the highway, like, filming, they're, like,
in the
getting out of
middle of
the
the highway.
RV, just standing there because
Yeah, and,
I don't
like,
wanna
the
be cooped up in here
funniest
anymore.
thing, like, Dakota's doing his little, like, in like, his solo interview thing, like, talking into the camera, and I'm just like, "I wonder what, like, all the other stop cars are like, 'What the frig is that guy doing?
What?
What's he filming?'"
Right? It's probably not gonna be, like, because it's just, like, his little handheld camera
And
that he
then
has, and
Alex
he's
has
shooting
the
himself.
bigger one, so
Yeah.
Alex is filming him while Dakota is filming himself because I was realizing, I'm like, we're actually not watching the footage that he is taking,
Mhm.
we're watching the footage that Alex is taking. So I'm just like, people are probably like, "What the heck?"
Right, like, what is happening? Are you the reason why we are in this
Yeah,
traffic
like,
right now?
are we backed up because of you guys? But that yeah, that was too funny. But, yeah, like, while they're in the RV, we always get some good conversation going.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Dakota kind of tells us the whole reason that the road trip is happening is because of Dakota and Chelsea's experience living in a haunted home. So, most of us that know, this is why they got into the paranormal. And also, if you want to know more, you're going to have to join the Fear Club and listen to a podcast because there's a whole podcast on what happens. But we get a little snippet, a little tidbit of what happens. And Dakota says that they built their house on the property. They didn't buy a house, they built it. And the locals actually told his father before they bought the land that satanic rituals were conducted on the property, even going as far as to say, like, don't buy it, don't build here. And Dakota kind of had a hard time explaining the feeling he got when he saw how afraid his parents were. Alex also, he's known him for a while. He lived across the street. Parents still do live there. He said that they were there one night, they were in the backyard, and he and Dakota could hear like a female scream in the backyard. And this was like 2 a.m. So, like, what are you doing, guys, at 2 a.m. in the backyard?
Right, of, like, your haunted, like, woods that surround
Let
you
me
in your haunted
guess.
house.
Um, but yeah, so and then he stated it was a female screaming and it sounded like it was down by the lake because there is a lake behind his house. And Chelsea also shares a story that she woke up to policemen standing at the end of her bed. I could only imagine that'd be so freaking random. And then her sister, I guess, was so afraid that someone had broken into the house. She swore she saw somebody. The police checked for any signs, forced entry, and determined like it was out of their scope. So Chelsea also noted that they had two priests come in as well and try to eradicate the beings there. And like that's a big thing when you have priests coming to your house trying to bless it. I'm not too sure if it was at the same time or if it was at separate times, but to have like like Tanner even mentions it, like how like it's bad when you got to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, people like are living all over the world, I'm sure, in haunted houses,
Mhm.
and they don't have church intervention to like
No.
continue to live at their house. So this had to have been very, very, very difficult for everybody involved. And I would
Mhm.
think so. Like, if you're getting woken up by a police officer because there's supposedly an intruder in the house, but it's really just like whatever ghosts are there, that's pretty serious. And
Mhm.
it would be hard to live in a haunted house without wanting to know more, or at least like getting the hell away from it, right? Like I feel like
Right.
in these types of situations you either like go and like looking for it or like wanting to find out more, or you're like, I never want to deal with anything like this ever again. And
Mhm.
obviously, everybody in the Layden household, they all had their own things, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of them don't have anything to do with this, but at least Chelsea and Dakota, their interest in the paranormal just really grew and grew and grew. And if they didn't have this
Mhm.
childhood experience, then they wouldn't have been doing what they were doing. And they know, and they say the same thing, so many people are experiencing this now too. And Chelsea starts thinking about all the times that she shared these stories with people who didn't believe her, and then she just kind of was shy about sharing anything after that. But
Mhm.
after like talking about it, she's like, we're chasing the fear and sharing it with thousands of people. So
Yeah.
it's so cool how that like broadened their perspective, and now it broadens
Mhm.
all of ours too.
Oh, for sure. And I'm so glad that she brought that up because I also experienced that growing up. Because not necessarily at all compared to what they had to deal with. My house wasn't really haunted. I just like to say my grandma liked to visit once in a while and play a little trick here and there kind of thing. So, and like that's why I got into the paranormal originally. And like growing up, I started sharing those stories with people and like I would get a lot of people like not really wanting to talk about it and then be like, "Oh," or like they look at me with like I have five heads kind of thing. And like, it's just nice to finally, like, find people that are, like, into this stuff, like, it's taken me years to do this and, like, find people to accept it, and, like, thanks, Fear Club. Thank you, guys.
Right?
Love
Wouldn't know
you.
what to do without all of you. And it's
No.
appropriate because even though we're filming today and you're not actually going to listen to it on this day, it's
Mhm.
National Best Friends Day. So
Heyo.
thank you, Fear Club.
Thank
Cheers
you.
to
You're our
Project
besties.
Fear and having
Yeah.
the community that we do, so it could lead us to each other and to
Mhm.
all of you on this platform with the podcast. So from going in our childhoods where like, ugh, don't talk about it, we literally spend hours upon hours talking about it every week
Yes.
with people that we've never even met. And
Mhm.
it's so cool that like their perspective that they're talking about in like season one is the same perspective that we have
Mhm.
4.5 seasons later.
Yeah, it's just so crazy to just be able to share so many stories with so many people and get to know all of you. And we do appreciate you watching and for new viewers watching and following us on Instagram. Like, we see you and we love you.
And we want to hear from you. So
Yeah.
we have had a pretty good influx of new people coming around to see what we're all about. So if this is
Hmm.
the first time that you're watching the video, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to let us
Hmm.
know what you want to see, what you want us to talk about, and give us some feedback about the episode so far. We'd love to hear
Yeah.
about your ghost stories or what you believe about the paranormal. We're all open to that.
Hmm.
And I think that's how we have to be.
Hmm.
Like, we can't, like, shut down other people's,
No.
stories or, like, their viewpoints or whatever, because it's just even if it seems, like, so out there, because this is out there. And I think that
Yeah.
that's, like, when they're talking about in the RV, I'm sure that it was, like, I don't know, maybe, like, a little heavy, so it's nice that
Yeah.
they found some balance and kind of paired it with going to a really lighthearted rest of the pit stop, which is a county fair, which is apparently Chelsea's favorite. She like loves carnivals. Um
Right? Like,
and
they're actually so fun.
they are fun.
Sketchy, but fun.
Yes, so sketchy, but hysterical and really great food. And I think like if
Mhm.
Chelsea wanted to, she probably could have been like, guys, like, can you like go on without me? I'll be here with my funnel cake and you just pick me up on the way home.
Yeah, and, like, this I don't know why, like, I laughed so hard at this. I don't know if it's just, like, the look on Dakota's face. Sorry, Alex, but you're not my LOL moment this time around. But there's, like, obviously there's rides going on, and, like, hello, the strawberry ride was, like, my favorite every time I went to the fair. I saw that and I was like, "Oh my god, I wanna go to a fair now." I
Mine
wanna go
was
on the
the
strawberry.
scrambler.
Oh
Like,
god.
you just got on it and it just, like, flung you to, like, one side and the next all over the place, and I hated everything else. Like, my
Yeah.
grandmother forced me to go on the tilt-a-whirl because it was her favorite, and I just feel
Oh.
like I've, like, repressed most memories except for, like, one
Mhm.
montage that I feel like I get flashbacks to every once in a while
Oh,
that, like,
no.
this happened to you, and I'm not, like, a ride girl, like, I get car sick going to the grocery store,
Oh
so it's
my god.
like I don't ride anything, like, I always have to drive if I'm going somewhere,
Yeah.
and seeing all of those on there, they look like they had such a great time, like, I
Yeah.
I could maybe go on a scrambler, I might be
Yeah.
brave.
Yeah, like, I can't do roller coasters, but, like, all of, like, the fun games that you can do too and, like, try to win prizes, like, come on. Those are, like, the fun parts. But,
Yeah.
as they're eating their funnel cake, like, some girl, like, screams in the background, and Dakota, like, I feel like every time someone screams, Dakota just, like, jumps. He has, like, cat-like reflexes and just jumps. And he looks back, and then he, like, smugly looks at Chelsea, and he literally just has to say, "That's gonna be you tomorrow," and then just, like, smirks. And then it's just like, "What a little shit." And then I
Right?
love, though, because, like, when I rewatched it today, she's like, "Or you," and then he admits, like, "Yeah, it could be me too." So it's just like,
Really could be
"Okay,
any of
guys."
them.
Yeah. Could be any of them this episode. Oh my
And no,
god.
and it's like usually they're like dying for hints, and like
Yeah.
Chelsea's like, "No, I don't want any. I don't want any. This means that we're leaving and that
Yeah.
we're gonna have to go." But he does end up giving them a couple hints, and it's really
Mhm.
about the visual accounts, the physical accounts, and he lets them know, like, hey, this is like the black mark of this town. So I
Yeah.
think that they start getting an idea of what's coming
Mhm.
for them, and they're starting to get into their investigation mode, and they end up making it to Fairfield County Infirmary. They're outside. They have like their
Mhm.
gear all set up in outside instead of like inside this time. It's
Mhm.
all just in boxes outside of the infirmary, and they're like kind of slow to like get it going, and you can just see Dakota's like mind brewing as the time goes, and he's like, guys, I have an idea. And I think everybody instantly gets on edge, like this cannot
Yeah.
be good. And he says, hey, we're doing solos first, and
Yeah.
each person, well, each person after somebody gets decided by fate, and they're going to go
Mhm.
in one by one to explore on their own. And immediately Chelsea's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not doing it, I can't do it, no. And she just starts freaking out, and Dakota's like, it's time to face your fears, like this is the real challenge. And while
Yeah.
he's talking about it, there's thing that comes from one of the windows, and everybody turns around and reacts to it, and automatically like that all puts them right on edge, especially when they're going in one by one. And my
Mhm.
LOL moment is Chelsea telling Dakota, she's like, well, you should go first if you're so freaking impressed with your own idea. And Dakota's like, you know what, like, I accept the challenge, I accept
Fair
the
enough.
challenge. And the funniest part to me is not only that like she ends up picking next in like strict karmic fashion, she ends up going after, but
Yeah.
like that's hysterical to me. But what's even more
Mhm.
hysterical is that now when they go for solos, everybody's hoping that they get first. They want to go in first
Mhm.
now because they know that by the end of the last solo,
Yeah.
it's been kicked up, it's really activated from everyone else going in there before
Mhm.
you, and you, the last person, usually gets screwed.
Usually, but yeah, that was so great. And honestly, solos, like, I will side with Dakota on this. Like, solos do really like amp up the fear. You're by yourself, and especially like if you've never been there before, like he's the first person to go in. He has no freaking idea what to expect. So when Dakota gets in there, he goes up to the third floor hallway where he sets up a static cam and goes into the jail cell, which is on the far end of one of the hallways. He goes in and he thinks about locking himself. He thinks about locking himself in, and then he does. Closes the door. Oh, Dakota. And then he decides to call out the superintendent.
Yeah, he's like, let me just go in here and like antagonize.
Antagonize. Oh, I think you've been hanging out with Zach too much, man, at this point.
Oh shit. Shutting
He's
those
learned
ghost
his
adventure
lesson.
spots, you know?
He's learned his lesson. So yeah, he starts antagonizing. I didn't think it was that bad of an antagonize, really.
We all
It
know that
was
his like
tame.
shit talking and stuff is like very polite. Like he is
Very tame.
politely antagonizing the
Yeah,
spirits there.
very politely. So he just literally says, like, open the cell door. Like, but usually when you ask a spirit to do something and you're like got the camera on and you're physically watching, it never happens. So it doesn't do anything, but he leaves the cell and explores some more. He goes to the attic to see if he can connect with Jane. In the middle of his sentence, as he starts freaking out and reacts to something touching his hand, and then he hears like crazy tapping, which like sounds like footsteps running behind them. They were so loud. And then he decides to set up a static camera in the attic, and he's like freaking out. He feels terrible. He feels like he's being watched, and he's like trying to get out. But yeah, so first person to go in, and we already got some touching of the hand, running,
Yeah,
and
like I've watched
ugh.
this episode numerous times previously, and I don't think that I really stopped to listen to
Mhm.
the footsteps, and they are like happen in just such a rapid fashion. Like someone
Mhm.
is charging you, and he even like turns almost to like get out of the way. You
Yeah.
know, like if like an animal or something, I just see like a bull in my brain like charging at you, and you like step away, and like they go like beyond
Mhm.
you. That's kind of like his posture and how he was behaving, and it seemed he was definitely really freaked out. And of course, like
Yeah.
he comes down and tells everybody about it, and
Mhm.
Tanner and Alex and Chelsea put numbers 1, 2, and 3 for who's going to go next after Dakota. And they put them all in a hat. They pick them out. Like I said before, in karmic fashion, Chelsea actually goes in next, and she's immediately being like, "Are you freaking serious? Like, it's me. I'm the one who has to go." But she ends up going to the second floor, and you can like hear her breathing as she
Mhm.
goes into it because she's so scared.
Mhm.
And while she's inside, there's even
Mhm.
activity happening outside because the
Yeah.
boys are all huddled up and they're chatting with each other, and they hear this like guttural scream, and then they run to it. They wonder if it's like an actual person, but then Alex remembers like, oh my god, the superintendent used to bring out these residents and beat them literally outside. And it's like
Mhm.
the look on Dakota's face when he like realizes like, oh my god, like Alex, you're right. Like it just kind of like, you know, like when the light bulb like goes off, you can tell that he
Mhm.
was like, oh, like forgot it, and it just lined up perfectly. And
Mhm.
they describe it as this like really painful scream, and Dakota
Mhm.
even says like, oh my god, like if that was a real person, that's still scary. Like we can't know if it's totally paranormal or not. And Alex is like, yeah, like what's happening to that person?
Oh my god, that, like, was one of my other funny moments. It was like like, I don't think I don't know if he meant it like that, but just the way it came out of his mouth, it's just like he thought about it and he was just like, "Yeah, like, what's happening to that person?" It's just like someone screaming painfully, like, what if someone's, like, being chased in the bush back there and it's just like, "Yeah, man, what's going on?" And you just, like, go on your merry way.
Yeah, you just, like,
What
go
the
and, like,
fuck?
do your freaking thing, and,
Oh,
like, they have to.
man.
There's no explanation for that, but it is that
No.
like, I thought that that was hysterical myself. But you know, Chelsea's up there, she's going up
Mhm.
to the 3rd floor, which is really where, like, so much of the activity takes
Mhm.
place. But she goes to room 322, and it just feels different in there, she says. She's, like, gets lightheaded, and she starts leaving, and she thinks she's, like, gonna pass out, so she sits down, and she radios the guys, and she says, like, okay, you know what? I'm coming out. You know, I'm going. This is like not a good idea for us to be like doing this. Like my head feels like it's gonna like blow up. And this was the first time that she was like physically affected.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's, like, super scary to be physically affected as well. So when she comes back down, it's now Tanner's turn. And he goes in after her, and I also kind of thought this was kind of funny because for some reason, he always finds a piano.
Every time. Your
Every
notes
time.
and my notes that I've already written and yours afterwards, you were like, in typical Tanner fashion. And I was like, normal Tanner has to find this. It's just like the amount of times I just want to see them like release a montage of like some song that they make up from like Tanner's little like notes like over and over again because there would be a lot of them.
Oh my god, it was just like, "Here we go again with the piano," and he, like, plays it, and he's like, "This is how I feel."
It's like the theme to like the opening like Jaws like theme.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Oh my gosh. So, just that is just increasing the creep factor at this point, and, of course, he goes up to the 3rd floor as well to try and make contact with Susie by using the music box. It's a motion activated device that plays a creepy tune, but for some reason the music isn't working. But we don't know why. Don't know if it's paranormal. Could be just the malfunction kind of thing. Um, oh my god, my ear just started ringing.
Dude.
My left one.
Okay, what that's the bad one.
That's the bad one.
That's the bad like message or whatever, right?
Weird. Maybe it's because I'm talking about the music box. Sorry, off track.
No, you'll tell me tomorrow. Like, hey, by the way, I know what it was now about the ringing in my ear. This other weird paranormal thing happened to me later.
I don't know. No, everything's been kind of hunky dory, but yeah.
Knock on
So
wood.
the music box isn't making noise, but there is like a light that flashes when it goes off, and there's like a little handle that turns, so that is still working. Um, so yeah, then Tander ends up going downstairs. Finally, someone going downstairs. He
Right.
ends up finding the morgue. So remember, that's where they stored the bodies and the food. And he gets scared down there. And I noticed actually when watching this, he is moving fast. He's
Yeah.
like panning around really quickly, and I think he even states that like his heart started pumping really fast. And then he doesn't like being down there, and then all of a sudden you can hear this like loud bang come from behind him, and he immediately like backs out and like looks in, and like we don't really know what made that sound, and he just like calls it, and he is done with being in there.
Yeah, it's like no more. And he doesn't usually like get that type of like,
Mhm.
ooh, I gotta go like right away. He's usually like, who made that noise? Who's in here? What
Right.
is that? And he like goes to it. And Dakota, like before saying like he was being watched since he was downstairs and like, the morgue area where they stored that stuff. I wonder if like he was feeling like the energy of so much traffic of spirits going in
Oh,
and out of
maybe.
there, like there probably would have been during that time of like, oh, preparing like dinner, preparing breakfast,
Mhm.
or whatever it might be. So I wonder if he like kind of felt like that feeling of like being surrounded, that like all eyes were
Mhm.
on him, kind of like, who's this person here, like in the middle of us doing our normal everyday thing, because he doesn't
Maybe.
get like that. Like, so I feel like there
Yeah.
had to have been a really strong presence or like some sort of energy that was there that really got to him.
Mhm.
Um, and so Alex is outside while this is happening, and he's like kind of hypothesizing, like, I wonder if while everybody else is going in there, since all of your stories are getting like just a little bit worse and a little bit worse, he's like, I don't even know how far I'm going to make it in
Mhm.
there. Like, I might not even really be in there for that long. And this is his first time ever going into a building like this alone. And he's kind of
Mhm.
just like, you know what? If my theory's right, I'm pretty screwed. So I just want to get this over with anyway. And he kind of feels lost because he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. And he goes up to the 3rd floor, and the music box is going off because you can see the handle turning over and over again. And
Mhm.
so he feels like he's like instantly met with somebody, but at the same time, he's like, I'm going to like turn this off. I'm going to take this and like put it away. But
Mhm.
Dakota ends up radioing Alex, and Alex is telling him like, hey, the music box has been like going off nonstop, but like I have to I'm going to shut it off. And then he hears this bang at the end of the hallway, and
Mhm.
he reacts to it. And like at that point in time in the episode, we all realize that the cell door at the end of the hallway actually made the loud bang by being opened as Tanner had shut it. And Tanner was 110% sure after Alex walkies them and says like, oh my God, guys, I heard this big bang at the end of the hallway. They find out where he's located, and Tanner's like, no, I definitely shut that. And Alex is just like super scared. He's in the pitch black, which I kind of thought was weird because everybody else took a flashlight in.
He turns it on though after he says that.
Oh, okay. I was like, as soon as like that happened, he was like, guys, it's like pitch black in here. And I'm like, turn on your freaking flashlight.
I noticed that he does. I can see like the circle on the back
he ends
wall.
up having like so many things in his hand at the same time. Cause he even has to say, like, dude, I gotta get off walkie so I can get this stuff and then check the door. So he's just like, it was the perfect moment for that to happen. And I kind of wonder, like, if you had it on, I wonder if it would have happened the way that it did, because Alex doesn't know that it's the jail cell door until he walks down to the end of the hallway and he notices like, oh my gosh, it is open. So he closes it for certain and heads to the attic, and he kind of gets the same feeling that Chelsea had. You know, he kind of gets really nauseous, like his knees are about to give out, and he realizes like, you know, I got to get out of here. But when he does, he ends up going back down to the 3rd floor and he walks to the jail cell. And as he does, it opens in front of him. And as you can imagine, he like absolutely loses his fucking mind. Like he's almost like frozen in fear because he's watching it open until it like bangs again. And he's like, runs down the hallway, but then runs back. And he like has no idea what to do in this moment. He's just like back and forth and back and forth.
When I was watching it, I find when people film stuff like that, it's always so freaking shaky and you can't see it. I was like, he like was so still when that door opened. I was like, holy shit. Like, how would you just like, he just literally froze and the door just like opens.
And I don't know if like the filmmaker, producer type of like person in him just was like, you cannot move this camera or you're not going to get it. But like even his footage and the static cams footage both caught it. But I think it's really like his footage that like makes it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I was just like, because he's like all like kerfuffled, and then like once it starts opening, he's like still. And I was like, I give you props, man. Like, holy shit.
It's like one of those like things that it's like you can't look away from it. It's like people comparing it like, oh, it was like a car accident. I just like couldn't walk, like I just couldn't look away from it. I think sometimes when it's just so like big of an event, even if it's really awful or even if it's really scary, you're still going to give your attention to it because it's fascinating all at the same time.
You know, it's like those stories of like people getting like footage of like Bigfoot or like UFOs. It's like they zoom in and it's just like a potato cam. And it's like, why is it so shaky? Why can't I see what you're showing me? And it was just like comparing that to this. And I was like, this is what you're supposed to do. People, if you want to catch Bigfoot and UFO, that's why I'm like skeptic on that. But like a door opening on its own, perfect shot.
Yeah,
Gold
and he
star,
like even
Alex.
radios them, right? It's like you get 3 of them for going last and for capturing the best evidence of the night. And he's like radioing them. He's like, guys, and he's like telling him about it, right? And he's like, they can hear him. Chelsea's like looking up because she could hear him from inside the building freaking out while they're listening to him on the walkie. So he's trying to get out and he's telling them like, guys, I'm lost. Like I'm freaking out. I'm lost. I'm freaking out. So they run in to find him and they meet like right inside the door to them leaving. And Alex is explaining what happened. His face while he explains what happened, it's crazy. He's just like, Chelsea even says like, oh man, like maybe you didn't see it. Like, you know, when you like flash your light, like sometimes it looks like things are moving. And he like doubles down. He was like, it opened.
Yeah, like the way he said it, she's just like trying to debunk it. Like, are you sure? Because they have never seen that before. He's never done this by himself before. And of course, the person who's never like really been in this, who's the skeptic, they get the evidence. And just the way he said it, dude, it opened. I was just like,
his eyes are like twice the size that they normally are. He's like shaking because there's like so much adrenaline pumping and he's so excited. And honestly, I've noticed, because I've noticed like him saying that, like I've probably watched the entire series, like I told you, like 20 freaking times by now. But
Yeah.
I noticed that like whenever he is describing something, he's so excited about like what had happened. His voice has the same like cadence, like the like he keeps like enunciating all of his stuff too. And
Mhm.
it really reminds me of Chandler Bing from Friends. Like his kind of cadence is like, could I be wearing any more
Oh, yeah.
clothes? You know, where it's like, my scone, my scone. Like,
Could
it's
I
that,
be any more annoying? Like,
yes. There's like that kind
oh,
of cadence to it. And I was like, I thought about that like the other day when I was watching it. I was like, Alex is like the Chandler Bing of this group on Destination
oh my
Fear.
God. The
I'm like, this makes me
sarcastic.
like it so much more.
Yeah, now I'm just like, that's all I'm gonna picture when I watch it now.
hmm You'll watch like the rest of the episodes that we
Ow!
do watch, just like wait until he's like really explaining something or like doubling down, or it happens when he like wants to make a point and he'll end
Mhm.
up repeating himself over again. And it just gets like louder and bigger every time he does it. And I think it's freaking hysterical. But like he really wants to show Chelsea, like,
Aw.
dude, no, it was not my flashlight. I swear to God,
Yeah.
this really happened. So they all go outside. They get Dakota's laptop and they do a live review of Alex's footage so the rest of the team can see what he experienced. And just like their faces watching it, they're like, oh my
Mhm.
God, dude, I can't believe that. You captured that on camera. This is awesome. And then like another light bulb goes off in Dakota's head. And he's like, oh, you know what? I asked the spirits earlier when I was like politely antagonizing. I was saying I respect everybody, just not the superintendent. But like I asked them to open a door and he was like, I was
It's
for sitting
fine.
there doing that. And now like a door is opened twice there. So they're
Mhm.
clearly very shook up about the whole thing. They need to be able to like tone it down. And they all decide, you know what, we've already done our solo thing for the night.
Mhm.
So let's go back in and end the night as a group.
Yeah, they end the night going in together. This is like at 3 a.m. So it's pretty much like, what's the point? Like, usually the sun rises at like 5, 6, so might as well investigate together. So Dakota says, we got to go back in. Of course, we can't be chickens, people. And they do a digital recorder session. Chelsea says she has a bad feeling, and Chelsea and Alex don't want to go back in, but we got it, guys, for the greater good. Dakota convinces them to go back inside, and we get some answers around 3 a.m. Dakota thinks Alex might be getting picked on. I don't necessarily think he got picked on. I do think that when you're a skeptic, though, things just want to be like, hey, look at me. This is
hmm
going to happen. And he went last. So maybe things just intensified. And remember, people, 3 a.m. When we get close to 3 a.m., it's the witching hour. So things probably just really amplified. And
And it
again,
had rained like like
hmm
before they got there. So I feel like it's just like everything is a little bit more electrified.
yeah, things were just popping off at this point. Obviously, they end up going back to the third floor where all the activity happened. So they feel that the door is pretty heavy. They like kind of want to debunk this whole jail cell door. Um, Chelsea mentions like there's no spring, like it doesn't look like a window's open. I don't think any wind would blow that thing open though.
No.
So yeah, they try to debunk it, can't really come up with anything. They decide to place a REM pod at the beginning of the hallway, and then when they do the digital recorder session, the REM pod goes off. At this point, they think it may be Susie. They ask Susie, "Is that you?" And then the REM pod stops. Another great thing about a REM pod is you can also use it for yes or no's. Um, so the REM pod goes off again, but at this point, it is indicating a temperature change and it's more of a higher pitch sound. And I think a different color light goes off as well with it. I can't remember if it's purple, but who knows? They're all so different. And it starts going off when Dakota asks it to stop. It immediately does. It seems to be an intelligent spirit since it is interacting with the REM pod quite quickly. So Chelsea, she makes a good point, and she thinks it's the superintendent. She believes that this isn't Susie, and she thinks it's someone who has access to all the floors. And then after she kind of like states this, they hear footsteps. And when I rewatched this, it almost sounded like footsteps going up the stairs. Like someone was
Ooh,
coming
interesting.
up the stairs to
Mm-hmm.
like say something, and then the REM pod goes off. So it's like, were they coming up the stairs and then they turned it off, indicating movement? Like,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Because like I'm sure he was just like making his rounds, like making sure everybody was still in line, doing their thing. Because if they
Yeah.
didn't, he'd just take them out into the front yard and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah. It's like, what are these for people doing? Like, what the heck? Get back in the cell, coming up the
Yeah, it's
stairs.
like
Like,
you're not in your rooms, or like you're not in the
mm-hmm.
jail cell because you were misbehaving. You've been out roaming the property all night.
Mm-hmm.
And during like the digital recorder session, Dakota had asked, like, can you tell us your name? Like, who was that opened the jail cell door? And when they review it later, they think that they have an EVP that they capture that says, I did. And
Mm-hmm.
so Chelsea's like, you know what, guys, like, I feel like we're taking this like a little bit too far. I feel like, do we really need more answers? Like, if anything, like maybe we just have what we have and like call it a day. And like Dakota's like, no, one more. So they do another digital recorder session, and he asks, like, is this the superintendent? And they get this kind of like aggressive EVP.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little distorted, but I think that they managed to like make out that it says get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just like enough. Chelsea's like, you know what? I've been saying it the entire time. They don't want us in here. Something doesn't want us in here. I don't need any further answers. We've already gotten enough. We're pushing our luck. Let's leave. So they
Mm-hmm.
do end up leaving, and they pay respects to all those unclaimed bodies. And they think that like we need to be able to like be respectful here and leave the
Yeah.
spirits here, especially to avoid an attachment. Like when you have
Mm-hmm.
people that need taking care of, and
Mm-hmm.
you're coming and you're wanting to interact with them, and it's hard for them, I'm sure, to be like, don't go. All of those
Mm-hmm.
people were probably like, oh, please don't go. Save us from this like awful man that we lived with during our life and now have to live with in death. Like, please don't leave us here. But
Right.
for their own good, like they have to pay those respects and say, you know what, please don't follow us home. Stay here. You can move on, you can do whatever you need to do, but you can't come home with me.
Yeah, you can't come home with us. And after our little cemetery session, they all do like their kind of like final thoughts on the night, and Dakota says he is even more curious now than ever. Whether this is a good or bad thing, we will never
We will
know.
find out.
The fear bug has definitely bit him, as we're only 9 episodes in here. And again, he is more rejuvenated than ever. He felt it was necessary to do solos, though. He says, I'm pushing them more because I want them to grow. And I totally back him on this, because it's just like, if you keep doing the same thing, if you keep doing a routine over and over again, like nothing's going to change, nothing's going to amplify. And sometimes
You get too comfortable.
you get too comfortable, and you gotta mix it up. And he really mixed it up. And I'm glad
And
he did.
honestly, if they didn't do it, we probably would have never seen the amount of stuff that we see
Mm-hmm.
from them episode after episode after
Mm-hmm.
season after season. So I like that he did it, like, because he even says to himself, he's like, I'm so mad at myself. Like, why didn't I think about this sooner? So it's like, yeah, you're like on your 9th location. You
Mm-hmm.
have one more to go, and you're like, man, I could have been making us go in by ourselves this whole time.
Yeah,
And then they
like,
do, like, that's a very, like, I feel like regular part of all of
mm-hmm.
the road trips after this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then Tanner, he felt challenged, and he knows it's coming, and his boundaries and limits will be tested. I usually think whatever like Dakota kind of like throws at them, mixes it up, Tanner just kind of like goes with the flow, cuz he is also in, I feel like he wants to know more, and he wants to experiment more with his fear and like his limits as well,
Mhm.
cuz you just never
Totally.
know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think he really likes to challenge, like,
Yeah.
kind of like playing like a collegiate sport, like being the bigger
Mhm.
dude I think that he is too, and people expecting like a certain level of things that he can do, like he also wants to test all of those and say like, okay, like what is my breaking point? And throughout the entire road trip, I think that's been his like when they're all doing their talks in the RV, that's kind of always what he comes back to. He's like,
yeah.
what is my limit? How am I going to know when I can hit it? And when I'm there, how am I going to react to it?
Yeah, and that was the thing too, like with them in the RV, they always kind of bring it up. Like Chelsea's just like, I've noticed like who reacts differently kind of thing, and everyone reacts so different as well. And Chelsea also doubts that Dakota remembers that she has limits and questions if his knowledge of her boundaries is even there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does forget, like, okay, like, yes, we are family. You are my sister, and he's known her the longest, so he should be respectful of everyone's boundaries. But at the same time, when you have a little fear experiment, you have to take that out of the equation.
110%. Like, and I'm sure, like, even on the road trip for Tread of Terror, right?
Mhm.
He pushes Chelsea past her limits then, and then he feels like shit about it the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh man, like that happened to her because of me or whatever. And then at the same time, like in later episodes, he's like, dude, this is like, or I actually think it's in the documentary. He's like, you have to do it. Like, sorry, like fate, like kicked you in the ass this time, bud. Like,
Yeah.
better luck next time. I don't know what to tell you. You're still
Mhm.
doing it. And so I feel like she also has to know that like he's gonna get like super excited about something and he's gonna like go
Mhm.
gung ho. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of like balance, and I think like Alex kind of shared that sentiment too, right? Like
Mhm.
I think Dakota's being over ambitious, and he needs to take a step back and like understand like, hey, we're not as experienced as you are, which would
Mhm.
make sense that both Chelsea and Alex are experiencing that from this episode, because it was
Mhm.
the first time that Chelsea was ever physically affected to the point where she was, which was
Yeah.
something totally new for her and unlocking a new level of terror.
Mhm.
And for Alex, he's like, I've never even been in a building like this alone by myself, let alone capture two of the craziest paranormal experiences, like real poltergeist
Right?
activity that they've even had thus far. Like the
Mhm.
most inexperienced person captured the best evidence. So that has to be exponentially worse for him. Like he's terrified.
Mhm.
Like him and Chelsea didn't even want to go back in. So
Yeah.
like I can understand why this is their perspective and their final thoughts on this episode.
Mhm. And he even, not alone, also started feeling effects also.
Hmm.
His knees started to feel weak, he started to feel nauseous, and that is a crazy feeling as well. Like for those who ended up like watching our Penhurst episode, like I had that happen to me. Like I just felt like crying for no reason. I felt like throwing up for no reason. And when I walked into a certain building, my legs felt weak. And it's just like, okay, like for me, I just take note and I'm like, "Okay, there's something affecting me." But you kind of have to like not let it bug you. Just
Hmm.
be like,
Well,
"Okay,
it's this
I feel it."
involuntary response. Like you can't
Mhm.
like shove it back down and you can't
No.
prevent it from coming again. You just kind of have to like recognize it, know it's there, and then
Mhm.
take whatever like message that you want or whatever your intuition tells you that like of what this means or what you have to do. Like both of us, I think, were like pulled in all of these different directions when we were at Penhurst. Like, oh, I'm really pulled and drawn to like this closet in this room or
Mhm.
this like space in this building. And
Mhm.
so we're still connecting the dots from our experiences at Penhurst
Yes.
weeks later. And there's kind of some
Mhm.
updates about our time there that we're just learning about in real time. And we're going
Mhm.
to share them with you next week. So you do not want to miss next episode. It's our season 1 finale. So if you'd like to watch along with us, you can stream the
Mhm.
season on HBO Max and Discovery Plus. What a location to end their trip on. The next
Mhm.
one is Penhurst Asylum and State School.
Mhm. Yes, and we will share more about our experience being there. And if you haven't seen our special episode at Paracon, go back and watch it. We have our own experience, about 30 minutes of ghostly footage before we let you guys know about what it's like going to Paracon. So, just a reminder for all of you to catch us every Thursday, 12 p.m. Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember to bring your drinks because it's always Thirsty Thursday with us, people.
That's right.
Always have a good time, and we love that you guys are loving the content. I see you all liking our videos, commenting on our videos, following us on Instagram, and I think we now have I'm going to still call it Twitter. I don't care.
We do have a Twitter. It's X now? Who calls it that?
How do you say that? I have an X account.
Yeah,
like,
I think
that
of like
sounds
really
dirty.
R-rated shit. Like when I hear that, and I'm like, no, it's not that kind of account, folks. But you will see some updates coming from us. Be patient with us as we kind of figure out X, because none of us have been on Twitter since like 2013. So
I can't. Yeah, that's all on you, dude. I can't figure it out. Because like, what do you call it now? Like, you're not tweeting anymore. What are you doing? Xing?
Oh, I don't stop. We have to end the episode early before YouTube throws us off, and they're like, no, there are other sites for this kind of talk.
There's a movie called X. We could be reviewing the movie X. Actually, good movie. Also, good movie.
Anybody wants to watch a movie after this?
It's a kind of a horror movie, you know? Like,
well, then maybe I will check it out as we get off of here. And shout out to all of our new subscribers. We see you. We love you. We thank you. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as Becca always says, if you find yourself coming back to our episodes over and over again, why not click that notification bell and get alerted to every time a new episode drops? So we can't wait to hear from you for next week, our season 1 finale. And cheers to that.
Cheers.
Have a good weekend, y'all.
Yeah. Bye.